All right, everybody. Justice is a Process back here with an update, as promised, on the Tyrone Tucker case. This isn't going to be a long video. We're going to just get into some updates. I'm going to go over with you a news release that Tyrone Tucker's defense team released, and we're going to go over it, talk about it, and then I'm going to go over a few other things that have happened. Just some things, one of them being a judge has been assigned, and I'm going to introduce that judge, and then we'll go over, there is a court date now set. I don't know if it'll be televised, but we'll get into all of that, and we also have some sad news as well. But we're going to get into all of that. We're getting into some rumors and things, but I wanted to get on here and do an update with you. I'm doing this as a premiere video. I'm not doing it as a live. But if I may do a live question and answer if that's something you guys would be interested in me going live for a little bit so we can have a conversation. Leave it in the comments. Let me know if I get a few people's interest in going live and having a community discussion. Getting to have some questions answered and thoughts going. Otherwise, of course, light it up in the comments. We can talk like we always do. It's great to have all the commenting and talking going on in there. So please do that as well. Also, if you're new to the channel and you're just finding this because of one way or another, I'm Steve. My channel's name is Justice is a Process, and we believe the premise of this channel is we watch justice unfold. We watch because when we watch, the process works better. And that's what our goal is here, is to keep eyes on things, especially cases like this, the Tyrone Tucker case. If you're not familiar with it, if somehow you missed it when Mr. Tucker went on trial last month, and he is a man who is, and I believe I can very confidently say, factually innocent. I know some people out there still have their doubts, but if you really take a hard, long look at things, if you follow along, if you go to hashtag, or I guess if you go to @freefranklintucker.com and start looking into things for yourself, if you watch the videos I've put out, if you watch, there's a video out at the Crime Circus. It's an excellent video, goes very well with the videos I've put out. Go out, consume it, because we have a real life innocent man here who is being railroaded into prison, or at least they're trying to, down in Florida. And that's why we're putting a lot of attention on this, because if the state of Florida has its way, Mr. Tucker is going to go away for the rest of his life. We cannot have that. And Mr. Tucker has sat for 6 years now. Now, some think, oh, he's out on bail, he's free. He's not free. He was in prison for 2 years without bond, no presentation to the grand jury. And that in and of itself was a problem, because you're supposed to have bond set in Florida if your case isn't presented within 90 days. Yet they let him sit for 2 years. One of the many egregious miscarriages of justice in this case. Finally, it was discovered that, this was made light. On top of that, it was discovered that the prosecuting attorney in this case had lied to the court in regards to a jailhouse snitch. She had held out that this particular snitch had no relationship with her office or with any of the police officers involved, and that only out of the goodness of his heart was he coming forward. And it turns out that was a complete lie. And we're going to do some more coverage of that, because that in and of itself is shocking. We have not gone deep into that, but it is a tremendous story there. But ultimately, he was granted bond. Because of that, that all came out, that she lied. Not only did she lie about that, but she also put forth the lead detective on the case and had him lie to the grand jury in regards to testimony that he claimed was given to him. He withheld information from the grand jury, and they achieved, when they finally did present the case in 2019, they achieved an indictment. Mr. Tucker was freed on bond when all of this had come to light. Investigations were triggered. Internal affairs investigations were triggered. And for another 4 years, this case went along. There was an expectation that it looked like Mr. Tucker, they might drop the charges. Motion to dismiss was filed in 2023. And Judge Jones, the judge in the case, after a hearing, lengthy briefs, overwhelming evidence, Judge Jones made the inexplicable decision to deny the motion to dismiss. Well, we can only wonder why. When you saw his performance in this trial, he was not wanting to do that. He understood the stakes were high and he wanted to protect the system down there in Key West. But bottom line is, for those 4 years between 2019 and, well, today, I guess 4 going on 5 years, Tyrone Tucker was imprisoned on home confinement, meaning he doesn't get to leave his house like you and I. He doesn't get to walk outside and look at the sky without calling the probation department, letting him know that he's going to be leaving his house, his apartment, and going out. He can't even take the trash out. He can't go eat a burger at Burger King or go to a restaurant for his birthday without getting clearance from the probation department. In fact, he can't do that at all. They wouldn't clear him for that. He can't do anything. He is locked up in his house. So obviously better than jail, but imagine if you were locked in your house for 4.5 years. And of course, one of the things people never realized is when he got into the courtroom, all of that was relaxed. He was in a hotel. He was away. He was down in Florida. He was out of his apartment for the first time in 4 years. He was around people. He was living a somewhat normal life because the judge had relaxed some of the requirements and allowed him to stay at a hotel and allowed him to obviously eat at the restaurant of the hotel, I would assume. I don't know all the ins and outs, but he was living a much more normal life. He was suddenly around people. And there he was in the courtroom. On top of all of that, just the craziness of being out again and not being cooped up in his apartment. He goes on trial against 2 of the top prosecutors in the Monroe County State Attorney's Office, and he gets a hung jury. And we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the statement that he released on that, because he incredibly does that. But the point of the matter is, Mr. Tucker's not been free. He is a prisoner of the state of Florida and has been for the last 6.5 years. And we hope 2024 signifies the end of that. We hope it comes soon. And we hope some of the things we're going to talk about today are going to move towards that. And part of that is you out there. If you're hearing this, if you're upset about this, or at least you're concerned about this, look into this. Verify what I tell you. Watch my videos. Go out and look at the information. Mr. Tucker's putting it out there for at free Franklin Tucker YouTube site. You've got the Monroe County clerk's office. You can download any document that I talk about on here. Anything you've seen, I've gotten all of this from that. And while I would absolutely not have any problem being affiliated with Tyrone Tucker or his defense or anything like that, I am not, regardless of the rumors that some tried to put into my comments. I literally discovered this case when I saw it pop up on Law and Crime, as I just began this channel not a couple of months ago, but it's pretty much I was looking for cases and I ran into his case and I got inspired by it. I started looking into it. I started reading everything about it because it started to become apparent to me that Tyrone Tucker is innocent. And that, if anybody wants to know why Tyrone Tucker doesn't have an attorney representing him, didn't have an attorney representing him in court, it was because he wanted to grab attention from people like myself and you people out there, and he wanted to get the conversation started, because a lot of stuff was done in darkness for 6 years. And the state of Florida was trying to finish the job here. In fact, one of the things that came out, I saw in an interview Mr. Tucker did with Uncivil Law, which I found very interesting, is he wasn't 100% certain he was going to go to trial without an attorney. And he had, it was kind of a legal maneuver where he had dropped his attorneys because he wanted to file his motion in limine, where he was able to put in a bunch of information that his attorneys would not have been allowed to write. So he did that. And then apparently they got word that they thought that Travis Johnson wasn't going to be available for trial, that he had disappeared. He'd gone AWOL. He'd gone off on a binge, a drug binge. And word was that they were going to have to, the state was wanting to potentially continue the case. And his attorney said, no, head down there, show up for trial. And if they call this case for trial without Travis, they're not going to have a case. They're not going to be able to meet their prima facie case. They're not going to be. It's not going to survive a directed verdict, in there do a directed verdict if not guilty. So he showed up, started the trial, and lo and behold, guess what? Turns out the state of Florida, and this makes so much sense when you hear Mansfield talking in the statement he made, which has stuck with me when he said, "This is a rare." Your Honor, I remember it was when he was trying to violate the rules of evidence and bring in a prior consistent statement of Travis Johnson, and his cohort there jumped up and told him not to do it. And he said, "Well, Your Honor, we're not going to get this opportunity again. I have a feeling, so I don't want to mess up the record of the case." And he backed off of it. And I thought the whole thing that statement to me was weird, because once Tyrone discussed that, go back and watch his interview with Uncivil Law, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to play it here out of respect for Uncivil Law, but he says, that he was baited to come down. So they brought him down, got him down there, and lo and behold, they had Travis Johnson all along, and they got him in to go pro se. So Mr. Tucker, what you saw, he was unprepared. He wasn't even prepared for trial to the degree that he will be for the second time around, because he was thinking he was coming down and going to take advantage of the fact that Travis Johnson wasn't going to appear, and he was not ready to go. And you could see that. That's why the subpoenas were filed late. That's why there was no transport order for Todd O'Quinn. That's why he was at the seat of his pants going along here. But that is not going to be the case. This time he's going to be ready to go, and we're going to see a different outcome, I believe, if it makes it to trial at all. Now, let's jump into some of the stuff here. This is, as I said, not meant to be a tremendously long video, but let's jump into the first thing here, the new judge. So, new judge, as I mentioned, there's a hearing scheduled for March 11, 2024. The new judge's name is Judge James W. Morgan. His background, he was a public defender of the 16th Circuit, so he is down there, has been down there as a public defender. He's a relatively new judge. Looks like he was appointed by Governor DeSantis in 2021. He is the acting circuit judge for the Marathon Division. So what this means is that they are moving the case from Key West to Marathon, and it will now be in a different area. So it will not be in Key West. I guess Marathon, I'm not sure about the layout there, but it's going to be in a different community basically than where it's been at. And it's going to be, so I think some of this is indicating that they are and were very concerned with some of the tenor of the discussions being had online, being had by Court TV, and they understood that, as you heard Mr. Mansfield reference, and he said, you're being set up by the Bubba system, aren't you? That's what you think. And of course, Mr. Tucker should have run through that door and said, absolutely, and this is why, and you've just opened the door, because actually, if an attorney would have been in the courtroom that day, they would have said, Mr. Tucker, you answer that question, you run through the door, and the next thing out of your mouth is, Your Honor, Mr. Mansfield opened the door for that by asking me that question, and all of that stuff comes in, and I get to prove that now because he made a question where he questioned that. So Mr. Tucker, by default, would have had the opportunity to bring in all that evidence. Now, of course, whether or not he would have been able to do that at that moment and get what he needed in, but he could have definitely got into more of it. He could have definitely potentially brought in things to show that, yeah, in fact, Mr. Mansfield, I do think I'm a victim of the Bubba system, and there's a conspiracy here, and there's a lot going on that this jury doesn't know. So he was appointed by DeSantis. He was a public defender. He was a prosecutor in the United States Marine Corps. He was a civil law attorney in the Marine Corps, operational law attorney, research assistant, law clerk. Um, and he is on the professionalism panel for the 16th Judicial Circuit. So that speaks well. So it sounds like what they're doing here is they're getting a new set of eyes here, and I think their hope is to shake off the idea that there's any home cooking going on, or that Judge Jones, I think, because he'd been in his case for 6 years and been around all of the people and all the stuff, I think he felt like, you know what, I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't in this case. If I dismiss the case, now it looks like I'm admitting something, and if I don't dismiss the case, it looks like I'm hiding something. So I think he felt like he could no longer act, and he knew that there is now a lot of online activism going on right now from this channel and others that we're watching. And that's why I say, if there's ever a case now, again, I didn't expect to run into it so quickly, but we have definitely made a difference by talking about it and watching, and that they're knowing we're there. And it is such a powerful, powerful thing. So anybody out there thinking, hey, it doesn't make a difference that we watch every day, or that we comment, or that we share a video, or we share a clip, or that we're there clipping a trial, like I like to do. I like to clip the things that are significant when I'm watching a trial. Some trials I go and there's not much to clip. In some trials, there's lots. But it's what you need to do, because these judges that aren't doing what they're supposed to do, these prosecutors and even defense attorneys that aren't doing what they're supposed to do, the last thing they want is people watching them. The last thing they want is awareness. Awareness scares the bejesus out of them. Anyway, so this is the new judge. Status hearing on March 11, 2024 at 9 a.m. We definitely are. I want to see it. I won't be there. I wish I could go down to Key West and go see it. That would be a fun little excursion. Although I don't know, it sounds a little, or I guess Marathon sounds a little scary. I don't know that I'd really want to go down there, because with what's going on with all this, who knows, man? I mean, there's some scary bubbas down there, man. But I hope it's televised. I hope somebody picks it up. I hope one of the local channels that I have subscribed to will pick it up. But I will be looking, I'll be watching, and I will absolutely be bringing it to you live on March 11th, 2 days before my birthday, I might add. So maybe I'll get an early birthday gift, and I'll find out that this judge says, you know what, Mr. Tucker, I've reviewed the record and I'm dismissing the case. Don't think that'll happen that soon, but maybe it'll be the start, at least, of that process. So next, next thing here, let's see here. We're going to deal with some sad news right now. Very, very sad news. And that is that Paula Beaumont, you may remember Paula as the one of the victims that survived of this crime. She has passed away. And remember, the court made light of that, suggesting that she wasn't actually sick, and that he was not being honest about that. And it turns out she was. It turns out that Paula was very sick. And unfortunately, she has passed away. She passed away on February 6th. This is, I'm not going to put her obituary up and her family up as privacy for them, but I wanted to show this. You can go online and find it. You can drop in and send flowers. You could send a card. They have several ways you can go if you wanted to remember her. Obviously, for Mr. Tucker, it's a tremendous loss because she became a friend. She wasn't a friend at the time, but they've developed a friendship over the years, because she was someone who was advocating to make sure justice, was happening in her case. And to her, justice was not locking up a man who wasn't guilty. So it's the good news for Mr. Tucker is, and we're going to broadcast the entirety of that deposition at some point here. And watch it again. It'll be much easier and better to hear when you play the original copy. But we have the deposition of her. And Mr. Tucker will be far more prepared to deal with the motions and deal with the things that he needs to do to make sure that that gets played fair. One of the worst and sickest things I've ever seen in a courtroom was when Mr. Mansfield suggested that that she was bought off without any evidence at all, and by Mr. Tucker's wife. And there was no evidence presented to that. And apparently, word is on the street that there was an interview of a juror, and that the jurors in that room actually believed that, but yet there was no evidence of that whatsoever. So for Judge, had he been convicted, that could have been definitely an appealable issue. Judge Jones should have never allowed that. That was a dirty move by the prosecutors. I assure you, Mr. Tucker will be ready for that move come the retrial. But what a sick, sick move. These prosecutors were willing to do anything to get Mr. Tucker, including besmirching and trying to destroy the credibility of a victim, a woman that had her neck cut in this. Remember that. She had her neck cut. And these prosecutors were willing to go after her and suggest that she would sell out over a vacation when there was absolutely no evidence whatsoever that his wife had anything to do with whatever vacation photos were on his Facebook. And remember, what Mansfield did was he said he introduced, I believe it was in Mr. Tucker's testimony, Facebook photos that he went on her Facebook and downloaded that showed her having gone on a vacation right before the deposition in 2019, which he put on as a rebuttal piece. And this is when I think what Judge Jones was talking about was, you don't quite understand, Mr. Tucker, how these things work and how things can be argued. And he put that on. And because arguments aren't evidence, Judge Jones allowed him to argue. But you're supposed to argue about the evidence. You cannot hold out you cannot argue something that isn't in evidence. So it should never have been allowed to have been argued. But he essentially argued that, well, Mr. Tucker here, he's over at the hospital with his tongue hanging out and smiling, and it was insinuated that she wasn't even really sick. And then it was, she goes on this, she's this poor woman living in a flop house, as he called the treehouse, with a drug problem. How could she have ever afforded a trip? Oh, he doesn't know. He doesn't know. And there was no evidence put in to prove any of it. And said, Mr. Tucker has a millionaire wife. So as a result, it must have been the millionaire wife who pays for this trip, which then leads to Paul saying, hey, now I don't, of course, come on, it's ridiculous. If you thought that Tyrone was somebody who was involved in an incident that resulted in your neck getting cut and a friend of yours getting killed and another friend of yours getting assaulted, and you think a trip to California is going to make a difference in that? No. It's because she genuinely believes Tyrone Tucker is innocent. And it's because she genuinely believes that he didn't do this. And she heard a voice that night. It wasn't Tyrone's. And we already know Todd O'Quinn, less than 2 hours after the incident, is telling the police that the individual that he saw with a white face pull up the mask, that he said when he looked at a lineup looked like Travis, was running down, jumped in a truck and drove off. That he jumped in his truck and drove off, meaning he couldn't have seen him get in a truck unless he was seeing him get on the driver's side. He got in the driver's side of the truck, turned his truck on, and drove off. And that's exactly what Travis did that night. And that is exactly what happened. And Travis ran out of there because he was scared to death. Every piece of the story that Travis tells, when you're watching Travis's interrogation, you see that he's sitting there and he said, that wasn't what I came for. And it wasn't what he came for. And when he saw Rory, cut Paula's neck, and suddenly Travis is involved in an altercation with Matt Bonnett, and Rory comes down and stabs Matt Bonnett. Travis got the hell out of there, drove off, and left Rory in the street. He didn't leave Ty in the street. He left Rory in the street. And Ty didn't come running down there because Ty had no idea what was going on at the time because he was passed out drunk, like he said, from the beginning. And that is that. The proof, the vindication is there too. And again, can you imagine if Pitcher would have told the grand jury that there was a witness, that there was a police statement from Todd O'Quinn saying that they saw a man get in the car, get in a truck and drive off, and that man looked like Travis Johnson, and Travis Johnson owns a black truck. This case is over. It's done, and that's coming out. You can bet, rest assured. But I apologize for getting all fired up there, but I'm fired up because what those prosecutors did to her, and that was one of her final last public moments that they argued in her case, trying to get what they called justice for her by saying no, she's a liar who sold out for a trip to California, which is absolutely disgusting. And they did everything they could to besmirch her. And then we find out they may even have drugged her. We don't know who was responsible for that. And that's what they did for her. That's the state of Florida. That's Mansfield and Company. That's the Monroe County. That's Dennis Ward, who we're going to get into what happened after that. That's who we're dealing with down there. And this judge, I hope this judge demonstrates that he doesn't co-sign this garbage. And I hope this judge puts an end to it. And I hope he doesn't put anyone through another trial. But again, we'll see. But unfortunately, Mrs. Belmont will not live to see Tyrone Tucker cleared, and that is an injustice even of itself, because they put her through this for 6 years. And condolences to the Belmont family, to her kids, I think she has kids. I think I read that in the obituary, to her family, to Tyrone, who I know is devastated over this, and to everyone. I know Tyrone's wife was close with her, so to everyone that was close with her, condolences, and I hope that she's now at peace, because I know these prosecutors, the state of Florida, didn't let her have peace while she was here since this happened. And that in and of itself is an injustice and a crime. So let's move on to the final piece here. And that is the statement released by Tyrone Tucker in his defense. Let's see here. So, all right, so we're going to read it and go over this. So, the background of this is Dennis Ward is the head of this, is the head of the cabal down there. He's the head of the whole district attorney's office down there that's prosecuting Tyrone. And he has to say he could put an end to this right now. He could absolutely walk away from this and say, you know what, we're dropping the case. He now has to look before the trial happened. He offered a plea, but now it's a mistrial. Pro se defendant gets a mistrial. There would be not a person that would say, Dennis Ward, you're out of bounds for saying, you know what, we're not going to prosecute. Sorry, Mr. Tucker. They wouldn't even have to admit that they made a mistake necessarily. They could just say, we're not prosecuting. We gave it a try. It didn't work. And we're moving on. But no, what does Dennis Ward do? Does he do that? Does any of those guys do that? No. Mansfield's jumping his fat butt up in court saying, judge said it, and the judge is setting it. And hell, they're trying to get a gag order issued right away, right? Why? Because they were going to go do what they tried to do here. Why did they want the gag order? Because they did want Mr. Tucker to put out something like this in response to what they did. Because what Mr. Ward did is he did a press release and lied to the press that the jury was 11-1 guilty. And that was not true. It was 8-4 guilty. It was not 11-1. There were 4 people in that room that had problems with the case. It was worse than it was, and that was what it had come to. It was better than that when it started out. But over time it had moved to 8-4. But it was not 11-1. And those people in that room, actually a driving factor for them was they believed that Mr. Tucker's wife had paid off Paula essentially with the trip. And they believed that, Travis was telling the truth, and there was, again, all things that we're going to see addressed in here. And as you know, there was a motion to suppress that absolutely had every right to come in, didn't come in, should have come in, and had it come in, it would have been absolutely end of story for the for the case, or at least should have been end of story for the case, because Travis would not have survived it, because that document proved that Travis was a liar, and it proved that he had told his attorney, whom has to represent the truth to the court, that Phelps got Travis to lie, and that Phelps implanted the story, the very story that Travis testified to, and that when Travis had his moment where he looked across at Ty Tucker and said, "No, she isn't a corrupt cop. She's a good cop. She's a good investigator, because she just happened to get it to hit the nail on the head, and she just got it all right. She didn't feed me a story." And in fact, there's a motion based on his communications to his attorney, which are not protected, by the way. They're not protected by attorney-client privilege when he filed them. And his attorney had every reason to believe that it was true, that he says, no, she wasn't a good cop. She was a corrupt cop, and she was somebody who had lied and got him and coerced him into saying what he was saying. So if that would have come out, if that would have got before the jury, Travis's credibility would have absolutely been shot, in my opinion. And I think we would have seen 8-4 not guilty, and that 8-4 would have been able to move the other 4 off, if not 12-0 not guilty, like it should have been straight out the gate. And then you add in O'Quinn's testimony, okay? Then you add in Paula's testimony, which is now bolstered by O'Quinn's testimony. Now you've got, and then if you've got, if he would have been able to get that IA report in fully, and been able to have subpoenaed the custodian of records and get that in, maybe even if you would have had time to prepare and gotten other witnesses in, it would have been game over, man. Game over. And we'd be in a different situation. But the state attorney's office, this is what they wanted to do here, was they wanted to be able to say whatever they wanted to say, do a gag order, do a press release, put things out, and then have nobody there to rebut them. But anyways, let's get into this here. So it says, this is being issued in response to the public announcement made by the state attorney of Monroe County, Dennis Ward, concerning his decision to retry defendant Franklin Tucker in what has become known as the Treehouse murder case. 2/2/2024. That's when this was released. Mr. Ward, while it came as no surprise to the defense that you made the decision to retry this case, we must take objection to the inaccurate statements that you put forth to the citizens of Monroe County. You claim that your office is dedicated to upholding justice and ensuring that the legal process is conducted with the highest standards of ethics, fairness, and integrity. Mr. Ward, this is not a time for political rhetoric. It is well beyond time that the citizens of Monroe County know that your office conducts its business without any consideration for those standards. There is nothing just nor fair in prosecuting a man for a crime where he was not remotely involved. Your public reporting that only one juror out of the 12 voted not guilty is indicative of your office's lack of integrity throughout the prosecution of Mr. Tucker. And if you jurors are out there listening, if you saw this, and if you happen to run into this video and see this, I hope the guilties give a little pause when you find out, if you really knew what that count was and you see how they tried to represent it. If you were on the fence post, if you were wondering, this gives you another example of what they're willing to do here, of how they're willing to misrepresent almost everything with this case in order to lock up an innocent man. You knew that was inaccurate when you released it to the press. It's understandable that you needed to justify your retrial to the citizens by making it sound as if Mr. Tucker was nearly convicted. Also, you did need an excuse as to why 2 of your best prosecutors were unable to convict a pro se defendant. The truth is, the pro se defendant won because your case is as dishonest as your statement is about the split. You know your office has not acted ethically in this matter, and neither have you, Mr. Ward. Details of misconduct and due process violations will be summarized by the defense in a renewed motion to dismiss. It is our sincerest hope that a new judge overseeing this, overseeing this case will look at the vast amount of evidence against your office and rule on the motion accordingly. Your office was fully aware that Mr. Johnson had filed a motion to suppress, claiming that all the testimony he provided was false and had been coerced by investigators. And keep this in mind, his attorneys knew about that motion and still put Johnson up. They knew what he said. They knew he claimed he lied, and they still put him up, knowing he's a liar. They suborned perjury. Okay? And they did that openly in court. That's punishable with up to 5 years in prison for these attorneys, if these guys would be held accountable for it. We don't know that they will because it required Dennis Ward to prosecute them, but you get a special prosecutor in there looking at this case. There is evidence. Mr. Johnson admitted his involvement in the crime. There is evidence supporting his involvement. Your office then cut a deal with Mr. Johnson and admitted criminal in exchange for testimony he already confessed was false, and then encouraged him to commit perjury at trial in order to convict an innocent man. That does not sound like justice. It is not ethical, but it does show your complete lack of integrity. And, you know, if the Justice Department or somebody doesn't jump in this case at some level and start investigating it for what they did here, there's never been a case that's cried out more for that, to get in here and look at this, to really send a message that you can't do this and get away with it. It's illegal. And you don't remedy illegalness, which in this case was the illegal taking of life, by doing illegal acts to get the person. You just don't do it. You say a retrial is in the best interest of the victims, their families, and the community. One of those victims is Paula Belmont, and she doesn't think it's in her best interest to have Ty Tucker retried. No. Instead, Mr. Ward, are you saying it was in the best interest of Miss Belmont that you come in and you totally destroy her, try to destroy her credibility, make false claims about her integrity, make false claims about vacations and being paid off? Is that fair? Is that what you think should be done? That you want to make her, victimize her, terrorize her with the idea that an innocent man is going to go to prison for crimes against her that she knows? She's told your office and she knows. And of course, now she's no longer with us. But when she was alive, she told you. She's told you in multiple forums. She's told you in sworn statements, sworn depositions. She tried to come to the trial, and then she suddenly gets medicated so she can't speak because she doesn't say what you want her to say. Is that in the best interest of the victims? Because she's a victim. Do you think any of the victims in this case want that? Is that really the way you think is best to represent the victims in a case like this? Mr. Tucker is still a citizen of Monroe County and a member of the community. Should any citizen of Monroe County feel safe knowing that your office could charge, incarcerate, and attempt to convict a person with no evidence of their involvement in a crime? Or should they feel safe given the fact that a criminal was spared a life sentence and now walks free because your office is so intent on convicting Mr. Tucker? Furthermore, we are appalled that you would even attempt to claim justice for the victims, as it has been the state that has mischaracterized and has attempted to silence a living victim, Ms. Paula Belmonte, or Belmont, I guess I should say. The defense had to fight as it was her strongest wish to testify at the trial for the defense, but the state attempted to deny her that right. The state mischaracterized this victim as a homeless drug addict in order to discount her as a victim. Your office was so desperate to win this case, they called her a criminal by stating that her testimony was somehow bought by the defendant's wife. The state knows there's no truth to those implications, and you, Mr. Ward, are lucky your office enjoys immunity from those slanderous claims, but it certainly does highlight your office's dedication to upholding justice and ensuring that the legal process is conducted with the highest standards of ethics, fairness, and integrity. Mr. Ward, you can continue to hold Mr. Tucker prisoner as you have now for 6 years and take this case to trial again, the evidence against Mr. Tucker will always stay exactly the same. None, because he is innocent. The only evidence you've ever had and continue to bring is paid for perjury. So we don't doubt you will attempt to buy more witnesses, as it is the bread and butter of your office. The fact is, you care less about the community, justice, ethics, or integrity, and the only real thing you care about is covering up the foul stench of corruption coming from your office, and of course, your out-of-season oversized behind. If a new judge rules against our motion to dismiss, the Mr. Tucker will gladly defend himself again at trial. If you had any integrity at all or believed in any of those words that came out of your mouth, then this time you won't rely on your henchmen to do your dirty work. You're defend your case, the integrity of your office, and come face Mr. Tucker yourself at trial. But quite frankly, Mr. Ward, the defense knows you'll never have the guts for that. Sincerely, the defense of Franklin Tucker. So, big words, absolutely big words. And we'll see what they do with them. But look, that statement hits the nail on the head. I looked around. I didn't see any press reports. I hope somebody picks it up. And if they don't pick it up, go to his Facebook page, share it. It's available on his Facebook page. He posted it up for all of his supporters that are on Facebook to see. Share it, copy it, paste it, put it out there. The point is, get the word out on this situation, because what they're doing down there is wrong. But we now have, and then on top of that, we have Miss Belmont pass away this week, and now they've robbed her of ever seeing Tyrone get justice, and ensuring that her name and a crime committed against her doesn't result in an innocent man being railroaded to prison. I mean, there's just something wrong there. Something very, very wrong. But this is the update, guys. I want to get it out. Like I said, I'm willing to open it up at a later time. Let me know in the comments. Let me know. I'll be in the chat. Like I said, this will be a live debut. It'll be a live stream debut, whatever. But I won't be live talking to you, so I won't be able to respond to your comments. But like I said, if we're interested in talking about all of this, these different things, this statement that he made, the Paula's death, the new judge. We can leave it in the comments. I guess put a thumbs up in the comments if you want me to do that, and I'll look for thumbs up. And if I see it, if I see enough thumbs up in the comments, I'll fire up a live, and we'll go live and we'll talk about it, and dig into this. But the case is moving again. I hope 2024 is the year. I hope it's the year that we see Tyrone get free. But if it isn't, if it's got to go longer than that, then it is. But as long as there's the ability to still fight, as long as he's not in prison yet, that's a good thing. And we hope that never happens, because it shouldn't happen. And I don't believe it will. I think this next trial, I think it's going to be a different deal. And I think the state of Florida, Dennis Ward, if you're listening, if you see this, I really think I would implore you, sir, on the side of justice, drop this case, dismiss this case, and let's do right here. Enough is enough. And there is no basis for this case to go forward any longer. You had your opportunity. You didn't get it done. Let's not compound the problem any further. Dismiss the case, move on, and let Mr. Tucker get on with his life. Anyways, guys, with that said, we're going to end this thing. And like I said, put some thumbs up in the comments if you want me to go live on this and have an active discussion. If you don't, that's fine. If I don't see any thumbs up, that's fine too. We're go on. I'm sure there will be other lives I'll do that we can talk as well. Going to continue to do the coverage there of the Adam Montgomery case. And apparently there were some issues today with subpoenas in the Jason Meade case. That's why I was going to switch over to that. I figured out what was going on with that. That's the officer I've talked about. I'm going to do some secondary coverage of that. I believe I'm going to go ahead with that and start airing that. We'll be behind on it for a little bit, but I'm going to try to take it on. Maybe I might make that my weekend case or something, since the Montgomery case will have tomorrow. We'll have some trial, I guess, supposedly a full day of trial, but we'll see. Anyways, I'll release more on that. Let you know more on that tomorrow when we talk, when we go live. Until then, guys, look, get the word out about Tyrone Tucker. We have a real opportunity here. We have a true nightmare right now going on for this man that we can all help with. We can all be present for. We can all do our part by watching, reporting, clipping, making it known, getting the word out, making our voices heard in a positive way, and helping Tyrone Tucker get out of the nightmare that he's in right now with the state of Florida. Anyways, till we talk again, guys, let justice prevail, and I will talk to you soon.